Okay, it's on.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 1:07. First things first, public comment. I didn't hear anything from anyone that anything had been emailed, so I assume we have no public comment, Randy?
We do not. No.
Okay.
And I have, I would like to ask the board if I can add an item to the first section of the meeting, the report of the superintendent of schools. I have a newly signed today memorandum of agreement that I would like to ask you to sign or to approve for signature. So it's in addition to the one that's already in here. That one does not need to be discussed in executive session. Actually, the other one doesn't either. But okay, are you comfortable? Do you want to just ask if people are comfortable with that, Julie?
I'm fine with it, but did we have a copy of it? I haven't seen it, or we haven't.
It just came in, so I was thinking I would pull it up. I've got it on my screen. I'll share my screen so you can see it.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that addition?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So moving on, we'll move on to the report of superintendent. So would that put us right into executive session, Randy? For
So yeah, so
paper?
the business that I have for you today is to ratify the new teacher agreement. And kind of associated with that is the MOA that was included in the packet. And so if you would like to move into executive session for that, you can make a motion. We can go in and then Julie, who is your negotiator representing your board, can share with you the highlights.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Diane.
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, can I get you to vote now?
I have to start first. I need to get reoriented. I'm sorry. I should get some. Just let me know what I'm voting on.
The motion that you seconded to go into executive session.
Yes.
Okay, Arlene?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay. We are entering executive session
At
1:10.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, we are now out of executive session. I have 1:38. And so I think we need to have some action items at this point. Following our executive session, we have a new contract to ratify. So I will, if I could get a motion to ratify this contract and allow me to sign it on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Thank you, Arlene. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And I'll go through roll call vote. Scott?
You called me first this time.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm starting from the bottom.
I
I'm
did
sorry.
say yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Diane?
No.
Corey?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Michael?
No.
And I would vote yes. So thank you. That motion carries. We will ratify the contract, and then we have an additional MOA relating to the contract.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
so I will need a motion on signing the MOA.
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Can I get a second?
I'll second. Thank
Thank you, Corey. Is there any discussion? I mean, that we can, I don't think we already covered it pretty well. So I'll do a vote. Michael?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Diane?
Yep.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Motion approved.
Okay. So thank you for approving this additional document. It's an MOA because I've asked the association, and in the agreement, we have 2 parent-teacher conference days, and we're really, really concerned about training professional development time for our teachers this year, given the start of the school year. So we are bumping all of our professional development days, which are 7, to the front of the year. And I've asked to move the 2 parent-teacher conference days also to the front of the year and use them as PD and training, so that we have 9 full days with staff before students come back. We've got a lot of health and safety protocols and trainings, and we've got professional development needs. I want to give teachers time to prep and plan to be prepared for students. So the MOA, the teachers have already agreed, and all of our principals support this. So we're just asking you to understand that we're moving that from parent-teacher conferences to PD this year.
Okay. Do we need, so we need to make a motion on this and move
Yes.
on it today?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just want to be clear. I would need a motion for us to sign an MOA authorizing moving all of the PD towards
Just the 2 parent-teacher conference days.
just moving the 2 parent-teacher conference days out of the regular calendar year and putting them up front to
As
use as
professional development.
as professional development. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Scott. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any discussion on this?
Can I just clarify? So before school, are there going to be 9 days where the staff is getting together? Is that what you said, Randy?
Yeah, 9 PD and training days.
Okay.
So it's going to be August 24th to the 28th, and then the 31st of August, and then the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of September. So not
Okay. And then at the end of the year, there won't be any professional development days?
No, and
And
we haven't had any, and there won't be any in the middle of the year either.
there won't be any in the middle of the year. And then parent-teacher conferences, are they occurring at all?
So we're gonna figure that out. Part of the schedule we've got right now certainly provides the time to do that in the middle of the year. But we're going to figure out the details of how we're communicating progress and PLPs with our parents. It's just going to look different than it has in the past.
So it doesn't have any effect on open house or report kind of night, whatever those things are.
No.
And you're going to work out what parent-teacher conferences are, how you're communicating to parents.
Correct.
So no, I'm not hearing, but it's, so parents will still be being informed. It just might look differently. Will they be as informed as they have in the past, like that many number of times? Do you know what I mean?
I'm actually hoping it's probably going to be more often in general because of the type of model we're having. Feedback is going to be a really big part. So there'll be at least 2 times in which there's like an official conversation, as there has been in the past through the PLP process.
Okay.
But there will also, because of the model that we're using, feedback between teachers and students and parents is going to be different than it's been, because we want to make sure that with the model of instruction we're using, there's a good feedback cycle.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think it's important to have the professional development day right up front because we are walking into a blind field. But I am concerned about communication with parents and feedback about, especially since a lot of people are going to be remote for a significant amount of time. And it was really, I think it was hit and miss for people getting communication about how their kids were doing last year. And it needs to be better.
Yep. So we got that feedback loudly and clearly. And part of the training we're doing is around effective feedback, given the model we're having. And so training as well as expectations around that and more consistency. We had a lot of really great feedback from parents, and yeah, primarily parents, but students as well about feedback. So
Can I ask a question about the feedback? Like, what were their thoughts? What was the, what did you find that was stopping them from giving feedback? I mean, are you hearing from a broad range of people? I'm always concerned about who you're hearing the feedback from and who gets left out in that chain, and how are you going to reach out to them?
yeah, that's a great question. So last June, we sent surveys out to teachers, families, and students. And we had principals reaching out to families who to solicit feedback if we weren't getting it. We had I had close to 1,000 responses to the surveys, about 300 parent responses. And what was clear, you start to develop these patterns in responses, which is good. When you've got such a large number of respondents, you're able to filter through those themes that are emerging across the system. So very significant variability in feedback was one of the key pieces of data that we found. And I think that that's understandable given the emergency situation we found ourselves in. And we did not train people on feedback, and we didn't establish expectations for communication, for lesson development, we didn't do it. We really supported people in just getting through the year. So all of that is going to be much more streamlined than it ever was last year. So feedback, ensuring consistency of feedback, a required number of connections with students, lessons and the expectations for the week being established up front, regular office hours so that parents and students know the regular time they can always connect with the teachers. So a lot more guidance that is clear and simple for families.
So one of the things that just popped back in that old policy that we talked about last time, and not being able to contact between 10 and 6, I get it, okay. But I'm a working parent and I'm not getting home until 5, I mean, where, I think that's gonna still pose a problem.
So Diane, not to interrupt you, but that was between students and teachers.
So the parents,
It
I
didn't
just want to
apply
be able to make sure.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was clarifying, because parents are agents of students kind of, but it was just parents, just between
The students.
So
students.
Diane, I've fielded a number of conversation calls from parents who, find themselves, as I think we all can understand, oh my gosh, how am I going to navigate this? Now I'm a single mom and I work full time, and I get home at 4:00, and my child is going to be with these people during the day. I feel like they can kind of do it, but it's really going to fall to me. And I've said, absolutely, if you're not signing in until 4:30, that's okay, but we'll have a communication channel. We want to be as flexible as we can be. So in those kinds of situations, I would expect that a parent
Some flexibility.
have a plan. Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had a question about the personal development days. This is just replacing the ones that were scheduled for the full days off in the middle of the year. And those are all loaded, or the half days on Fridays?
So we have not talked at all about JISP. So
Okay.
I haven't gotten there in any way, and that's what I'm saying to everybody. Let me just get through this part.
Yeah.
So this is in the agreement. There are a total of 7 professional development days.
Okay.
Those are all moving to the front, and I'm requesting that we have the additional move just for this year.
So we do need to vote on this unless there's any further questions or comments. Okay. Michael,
Yes.
Arlene,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes, for me as well. So we have another signed MOA, or soon to be signed.
We will get them to you, Julie, to sign, okay?
Perfect. Okay, and now we're retreating.
Now we're retreating.
Excellent.
So I had connected with Julie. I was going to kind of create a document for you with your survey results, but last night when I was looking at it, there were only 3 responses. So then Julie said she was going to do it this morning, which she did complete it, but I'd been in meetings all day. So what I'd like to do is to share with you through my screen, which is going to be a little bit slow and a little bit cumbersome, the survey results. And then Julie, I don't know if you want to I can go through it and you can take a look at it and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Does that make the most sense right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me, share. Okay. Okay. So, sorry. All right. So you can see if you just color wise, I don't know that I can, I don't know if I can make this any bigger.
I think it's fine right now. I can see.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
See it?
I'll let you read. You don't need me to read it to you, right?
No.
I'll try to put 2 on at a time if I can. So you might want to just make notes, I guess, of anything that sort of jumps out at you that you might want to talk about.
Went fast.
Sorry. Okay. Give me feedback because
You asking for current feedback or?
no, I just mean if I'm going too fast or too slow.
Let's see, okay.
Sure, I'm going to mute her. Okay. Just don't.
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the school budget itself would let us know what happens.
Can you, what is this section called, the top of this?
Meet legal
Yeah, okay,
responsibilities.
great.
This one's operating legally and ethically.
Thanks. I just found it interesting that they're switching all to the agree in these sections.
Yeah.
We were meeting our very basic requirements of not breaking the law.
It's just, it's promising.
It's getting better.
Hmm. Oh, look at that.
There we go.
Woo! We're nice to each other.
Oh, stop.
Hey, it's a very big thing for me.
It is
I agree.
very important. Wow.
I love our efficiency is a strongly agree.
That's,
This last one, well, this once a board decision is made, I have to tell you, you know, seeing other boards in my town, it's
Yeah.
huge that we do
it
that.
is, it's very
I
important.
agree with that. I agree with that.
That's it.
Good.
All right.
So I don't know, do you want me to stop sharing or is there anything you want to go back to or?
Yeah, I think if we can leave it up for a little bit, because there's some towards the top section that there was split on.
When I was filling this thing out, I felt like I had much more disagreement at the beginning of the list than I forgetting what that section was, but a lot of it kept reminding me of some of the governance, the policy governance work we have been sort of making our way through, but haven't made too much actually on the street kind of progress with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought a lot about that, Michael, in my thinking about today. And one of the things that we're going to do is talk about our goals, and we have been working for the last few years on one specific goal. And we're also going to be talking about next steps on policy governance. And I was kind of like, because I feel like it's been really important to me, and I feel like it's been really important to most of the other board members that have been part of previous retreats, that we really start engaging more with the community on what
I agree.
what things look like, what they want things to look like, what they want students leaving our district to be prepared for, and to what tools we want them to have. And I'm like, do we want to adjust our goals to really focus more on that, or is that going to impact, is the decision about policy governance going to impact that potential decision? Because we are going to be, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but like if we're going to be officially making a switch to policy governance, we're kind of just going to have, we're just going to take policies and just run with them. TNG already has some established policies, so we would maybe basically take those policies and start working like we're working with them, and then we would want to go to the community after we sort of have our feet wet in that. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but I think you guys know what I mean.
Community engagement, it is interesting for me as a new superintendent to have just done these retreats back to back 2 days in a row. Community engagement is a very big topic for Taconic and Green as well. And it's a huge part of policy governance. And I think that regardless of which kind of approach you're taking as a board, it would appear that there's not necessarily, you're not feeling as connected to the community and necessarily kind of knowing their vision, their needs, their values, and kind of how you represent them. And so I think part of what happens in policy governance is that you're thinking to yourselves as board members, you are representing your community. Your stakeholders are your community, and so you engage in community community engagement practices so that you as a board really have a sense of what your community's needs are, what they value, and what they're, and then you're able to accurately represent them. It's a pretty, and that sort of guides your work. And then what happens is I, as a superintendent, hear what the community wants. You're representing people, and then we work through the policies to make sure that we as an educational system are delivering on what it is that you want, right? You represent the community. I understand and I interpret what I think it is that you want, and then our educational system is supposed to be meeting that need.
Relative to that structure that you described, Randy, I just have a quick question. Is part of our, I guess, obligation or duty as a school board, if we come to a mutual consensus in our board about, for example, what we want our future vision to look like, would it not be part of our job to sell our vision to the public as well as get their reciprocal response? I don't know if that's
right. I think so. I think that that's part of how you operate. So it does, I think it always goes both ways, because you are always needing to report back to your community, and they're also giving you direction or input for you to guide your work.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just thinking of, excuse me, I just wanted to mention an example that I thought of, like when we were last year, when there were still such a thing as field trips that existed in the world. We had all collectively agreed, hey, let's get our kids more field trips because they're really beneficial and they're really, excite everyone. And so we sort of stepped out a little bit and shifted our budget to accommodate that idea, which I was reflecting on the other night. Seems to me like part of what we should be doing going forward, even without knowing necessarily all the details of policy governance.
So if I take that exact example and apply it to a policy governance lens, then part of what you as a board would recognize as your vision might be something about, you want to ensure that your students have a worldview, that they have an understanding of things outside of the towns of Rupert and Pollitt. I then, as a superintendent, might interpret that to say, okay, it's really important to the Mettawee board. I'm hearing that a worldview, right, a larger than Pollitt and Rupert view is a priority for the board and for their community. I then would interpret that to potentially say, I want to support greater field trips to further away places or expose our kids to things they might not typically see. So you might, I'm even going to extend this even further, because when we're developing the budget, let's say, for instance, you develop that as a priority. You've communicated that to me as a priority. You might say, can you show me in budget development how you have allocated resources to support this value that we have? And I would say to you then, oh, well, we've put in another $10,000, $15,000 into field trips and enrichment in order to ensure that your students are able to access right? So that's, you don't necessarily make the decision. It's my responsibility to interpret it and to be accountable to you for meeting the needs that you've set out for me.
And if I could just clarify, I think we don't necessarily sell the community on our vision of what we want. We collect information from them on what their vision is. We, make that into a cohesive set of policies that are then interpreted by Randy to give an end product that is something that the community wants. I think we have a sell in there somewhere, but it's not in our vision. It's in, I think our sale to the community is to say, we heard you, that it's important, that you feel it's important that students leave our district with this, 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 and this. And our policies have allowed for more work on this, 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 and this. Like, I think sometimes, I mean, we're supposed to be a representative democracy, and I think often we're not in the broad picture of who we are as a country. And this is just a small scale of that. And I think it's important, really important to me, that my job on the school board is not to get what I think is right done. It's to get a general consensus of what my constituency believes is the best path forward, and to do what I can do to make that happen.
And so, can you hear me, Julie?
I can.
Okay. So what I think I'm hearing is that we need to have, or at least my interpretation is, I don't know what my community thinks. I know what I think. I know what I think a few people think because they talk to me, but I don't know if I'm on the mark, if we're on the mark, that small segment of population. I'm thinking that, and I think we've discussed it before, having public open forums, even if they're come down to a coffee clutch, and we take that information almost like we were doing a strategic plan, but asking the same questions so that when we're all together, whether three of us can attend one or all of us, but we hold them and we're trying to ask those questions like, well, what is it do you think? Like you were saying, Julie, what do we want our students to know when they leave 6th grade? What do we want them to know when they're leaving 12th grade? What do we think we value that we want instilled in them that education can help us to achieve? So I think for me, it comes down to getting people together to have those discussions, as long as the meetings are all open, and we can then have that discussion with people and bring back that information.
So you're talking about, again, I'm going to frame it because you have the familiarity of how you've operated. If I frame that in policy governance, what you're talking about is community engagement in order to develop your ends policies. Ends policies with the academic achievement, transferable skills, dispositions towards learning. So you develop your ends policies. You just described ends policy development through community engagement, exactly how it would be in policy governance.
And is that what, like if Michael was using his example about we want our students to be more worldly, isn't that an ends policy? It
would be. So, yep. So it would be, they're very broad. And so they're not specific. You're not going to say, we want 100% of our kids scoring proficient on the SBAC, right? It's not like that, but you end up pulling all of those key pieces. And so you as a board might say, how are we going to engage in community, and how are we going to go and engage in community engagement processes? You then decide where, are we going to go to the Rupert Fire Department for this, or to this dinner for this, and how do we make sure we're hearing from all members in our community? And this is the protocol we're going to use so that we're consistent. We're going to do it over these couple months, and we're going to come back as a board and look at everything that we heard from our community and identify our ends and develop our ends policy.
Yes. I mean, that's, I think I'm understanding what you're saying. It's, for me, it's like working, I don't know if the theory in education, I bought into it when it was taught to me, start with what you want somebody to know and work backwards. And, it's that kind of, this is my goal. How am I going to get there, and put all my steps in place to achieve that?
Mm-hmm. So when you look at, what we're doing, for instance, with the ends policies that we're doing with Taconic and Green right now, is they just created a placeholder because their whole community engagement plan got derailed because of COVID. It aligned with starting exactly when the virus came. Mm-hmm. So they created their ends policy, and now I'm needing to say to principals, I want you to look at the ends policy. I want you to look at who your school is and what you own. And I want you to develop your goals based on working towards achieving this. And so they're choosing on their own the areas that they want to focus on for this year as it relates to the ends policy. And that's going to be presented in October at the board meetings, so that the board understands each school priorities this year as it relates to that work. And then it will be followed up on in the middle of the year for progress. So it's a good process to use, I think.
I think this is
long term.
Very inspiring, and it seems to me like one way we could do this reaching out, particularly given the circumstance we're all facing with COVID, is to do this through some kind of a written survey. I'll be transparent, since we're all in retreat. My worst case scenario is we go to.
Hold on, you are being recorded then, your retreat, just so you know.
Okay, but okay. My constituents say to me the most important thing that they feel is we should be doing is not spending one extra nickel on education than we are already spending. For me as a board member, I feel like I immediately run into a conflict with that particular agenda. So I don't exactly know how we negotiate such things, and maybe I'm getting too far out in a kind of a supposition, but that seems like one of the things that I'm a little squirrely about is what if all my neighbors want to do something I don't agree with.
Well, I think, Michael, that's an opportunity for you to ask them what their vision of a child leaving our education system looks like. Okay, I hear you. You don't want to spend money. It's very important that we, tighten our purse strings. I understand that. Can you now explain to me what you want a graduate from our system to be capable and able, to be capable of doing? What you want them to have experienced while they were here, questions like that get them to actually answer the questions, because that's not an end.
Or even like a prioritizing of what is your priority within the budget we do have. If we don't want us to spend another cent, where do you want the money that's there to go, in what order?
And what you're talking about is when you develop your community engagement process, part of what you do is troubleshoot through some of what you think might come your way, so that because all of you will have some of those moments of I'm not sure entirely how to respond to this. So you'll consider those within your planning as you're considering your approach.
And when we had our budget meeting the last time in front of our towns, I mean, we had to say that a lot of our budget is out of our control, to try to make our people in our communities understand that special education costs X amount of dollars, and we don't get to say very much about that. I think that still continuing to try to educate them with that is important.
Yeah, I was gonna, you just used the key word, Diane. So Mike, you said earlier, we have to sell it to the community. And I think what you just said, Diane, is, to me, I think a lot of our role is that we have to educate the community. We're almost like representatives, like we elect to represent us in the state by our community. So we're representing the community with relationship to what the school budget is spending and how good our schools are. And they're relying on us to make educated decisions. And there's a lot of information to go through. And I think we do a really good job of discussing that and considering what the community's feelings are. Like you were just saying, Mike, what you're hearing from people. And I think such a big part of that community engagement is educating them on what decisions are ours to make and what ones aren't and why we're making them. Obviously the budget next year is going to be really tough, but 90+% of that is because of revenue problems. It's not our decisions that are driving that. And just a quick reflection. I was having a discussion the other day with a gentleman in the community, and he was talking about, he doesn't have children at school, and you spend all the education tax. And Julia used your comment of, well, it's important to have an educated community, so when you go to the store, they can give you the right change back. So I don't know. Yeah.
I wanted to go along with what Scott is having to say, but one of the things we need to know, or how to go to the community when they talk like this, we have to have options that we can give to the community as a part of educating the community. I always taught, and I'm still very much of a world view, that we need to open up the world, not only to our students, but to our community too, because there's a big world out there for people to get involved with once they get out of school. Very what it was like when I got out of school.
And I just wanted to interject, my thing about not wanting to spend a nickel was it's conjectural. I'm not hearing that feedback. I was just thinking, what would be the worst feedback to hear, or a difficult one. So I just don't want anybody to take that literally, or it's like, and I know it's a real one, but it's not something that I've personally bringing to our conversation, because I've been having a lot of people come up and complain to me that way.
Okay.
Do you want to look through this anymore, Julie, or do you want to?
Well, can I ask one? I definitely, when we were going through it, definitely community, there were 2 slides that had to do with community involvement and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm hearing that we do need to try to do that for a lot of different reasons. The other thing that there was a slide, I don't remember where, mid to 2/3. It was about maybe the board and student learning and how it was reported to us. Is there a slide, something making some kind of a reference to that?
There is.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I find it.
Because I don't know if I would even, but I'm not sure I agreed with the answers, but I have had major tech problems with the BR issue, so I did not get to do surveys or emails. Thank you, Julie, for helping me get to this meeting.
I think it was up earlier, Randy.
It was?
I think so. I wasn't sure if you were even farther up.
Oh, you mean even at the very beginning?
Well, I'm not
at the very beginning, but it was, and I'm not looking
budget.
too fast. Okay.
Performance and goals.
Above this one. Yeah.
Student learning.
School goals specific. I guess my question and my concern, since I've been on the board, is I'm not sure I have a sense of where our students are.
Mhm.
I know that this last year, whoever came to our meeting and did, what did they do? A PowerPoint or some
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think it was
slideshow?
Skylar.
Tyler.
Okay. I think that, I sat there and I listened to that, but I'm not sure it gave me the information I wanted. I don't know if it was current enough. And I think that that's part of my problem, is that the reporting has been lagging behind where we are in real time. And I think it's hard to make a decision on what the ends need to be if the information, the data we're getting is old. And I just think that we need to try to work on making sure that, you know, that everybody, that across the BRSU and our school, that we're making steps well in math, that the kids are where they need to be. I don't know. Am I making any sense? Is anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm recalling when we were at that meeting that we were like, this is fine, but there were no specifics to Mettawee. It was
Right.
like, this is how the BRSU compares to Vermont.
Yes.
Well, that's great. And that's an important data point for us. And I want it, but I also want to know where Mettawee sits within the BRSU.
I just think that over time, I have not seen that delivered. And I feel as though, I don't know, I want to be able to look at data and say, this is what, I know the kids are still getting tested, but the data's not getting,
Right.
so that we can celebrate that. Because that would be a good selling point for when somebody says something about a budget. We can say, well, do you know our students are?
Mhm.
And I can't say that because I don't have that information.
Right. I agree. I totally understand what you're saying. And I'll tell you that the answer is not going to come particularly quickly. Two reasons. One is there was no SBAC testing last year at all.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think, we just received the information from, I am thinking it might even be the 17-18 school year. Recently, the delay, to your point, has been huge if we're looking at statewide data. So we are going to be looking more at local data.
Okay.
And we're switching because of everything going on with COVID. We're adjusting our system so we don't have any we're on a new platform of data. That doesn't mean, but I'm not concerned about it, because we still can look at NWA trends by school, which we've done, and you've seen that. We'll be able to look at student growth. We'll be able to look at cohort growth over the course of any given year, and then over comparing years with what we've got. The system's good. So I am a pretty data-driven person, whether it's qualitative data or quantitative data.
Mhm.
And as the principals are developing their goals right now, they are going to be couched in baseline data. And I've said to them, I need to be able to see your data source and pretty clearly establish SMART goals that'll be measurable. So we're taking a little bit of a different approach. Is it this year going to be as smooth as I would like? Probably not, for a number of reasons, right? We're in year one of a adjustment to how we're doing things. We're also, that's as far as even assessment goes, but think about, the instructional practices and what we're looking at right now. It's just a tough year to start and feel like you can look at any sort of level of pattern or trend accurately at this moment, but we'll get there. And I think that you'll see as we move through the year, when we develop the work plan, that you will have something much more specific to Mettawee this year than you have in the past.
So thank you for that. I mean, I know that everything is out there. But I guess I would think that I would want to know how my students are coming back. You know, I'm not saying I want to test them necessarily. I'm just saying that I think that it would be really good. Anyway, okay, I'm done.
Is everyone okay if we stop screen sharing?
If we what?
Stop screen sharing?
Sure.
Yeah, I would like the copy of that. So for reference, like it seems like we would use the survey to go forward with where we want to improve and how we want to get to full agreement on some of these things.
Yeah, so I am happy to, Diane, it looks like 4 people completed it. So if the other 2 people want to, I can wait for you to complete it. And then what I can do is take all the charts and put it in a doc.
If I can get into, I've been on the phone with Celeste and Julie. I can't get into my BR. I couldn't get into that form. So I will try again because I hope things have been corrected, but I'm not sure. So I can try again. But if it doesn't work, then, you know, sorry. But I would love to look at the information because I also am pretty data driven.
So do you want to wait, like, do you want to give it like a week from today or something?
Yes.
Me? Okay.
Any of us, like, is that okay? And then whoever hasn't had an opportunity, if they get it filled out within a week, and then if they don't, then we'll just get the results.
Yeah,
Okay.
really fine.
You got mine, right? I filled it out a couple days late, but.
I haven't closed it. So if you've done it, I'm just looking right now.
And
I did it a few days ago.
Yes, Scott, I've got it.
I have no problems with any type of communication except phone at home at the moment.
Okay, so we've had some technical difficulties with 2 people, so we'll leave it open for a week, and then is that okay, Diane? I know you want to see it.
I will try. I'll try even later. Well, I don't know. I've got meetings all day, the rest of the day, but I will try.
Okay.
And then, you know, because I tried, I just didn't get there. So yeah.
So I guess what I was wondering about with where I was coming at this from was, so on the agenda, it's, you know, to go through this self-reflection results, and then our next item is to review our previous board goal and develop a new goal, if that's what we want to do. And then the following up with that was to have a policy governance discussion. And I guess the policy governance discussion is like do we want to pull the trigger? Do we want more time? Do we want to just bag policy governance? I mean, I think I'm wondering if we should consider the policy governance question before we figure out what our goal is going to be.
Well, so we either say we're going to support policy governance, and that will help me say, then I think we need to work on our ends policies or adopt them policies. So then, well, but then I can set my goal. I'm talking out loud. Or I just say I'm opposed to policy governance at this point, and we move on. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Well, yeah, I was just wondering, like, if we're deciding that we're going to go with policy governance, and it's so, I mean, because I would like a goal for us to work towards community engagement. But then I'm thinking, if we're working on diving headfirst into policy governance, do we want to kick that can down the road and pick something else to focus on until the following year, at which point we will really be working on designing a new ends policy with policy governance in mind?
Yeah, I would weigh in here. I think with all the stuff with COVID that we're trying to keep up with, you know, meeting remotely and all this, and it seems to me a couple meetings ago, a few people were weighing in and saying, oh, with all the spare time with COVID, you know, we're just sitting around. Why don't we work on policy governance? I know it varies depending on, you know, some people do have more idle time now. I have no time right now. So whatever we can do to simplify, and like the idea of me being able to like delve into policy government, I don't have the time, you know, I can't. And I don't want to, as you're saying, Julie, I don't want to have things suffer like the focus on, you know, on really kind of what we have to do as a school board, you know, and as far as community and community engagement and those things. I don't want those things to suffer because we're still trying to learn and get our head wrapped around policy governance. From what I've learned about that, I think it's a great thing and we should do it. But at least for me, to dedicate a lot of time to that, I can't do it right now. So that would be my weighing in.
Michael, we really can't hear you. I feel like you're trying to talk, but it's like the teacher from Snoopy.
Wah, 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 wah.
I got that loud and clear.
I would unfortunately put myself in a similar, at least scheduling situation as Scott in terms of our being slammed here. And nevertheless, and perhaps forestalling it is the best and sensible thing to do. I feel like from the little inkling I've got looking into policy governance, it seems very beneficial. It sounds like many other boards around us are moving in that direction, and we should continue to do so. But I am in a similar place, feeling like perhaps the community engagement piece should take precedent, especially given what our communities are dealing with kind of a school arrangement that's really shifted dramatically in terms of schedule and so forth. And it seems like that would be a more important ball to keep our eye on as it bounces.
Okay. I would love to know what the other board members think.
So are we talking, I guess, about just one goal? If it's going to be policy versus community? Are you saying?
No, I'm thinking, I guess what I was thinking was if we make a decision to formally adopt policy governance today, would that change what you have for a goal for the year? And if it wouldn't, then it doesn't matter. But if it would, then that's why I wanted to bring it up and start talking about that before we started talking about what we thought a goal would be.
For me, I think that it wouldn't. I think that for me to set an ends policy or to look at tectonic and greens and whatever model, I need more information before I can do that. And I think that for me has to come to the community, because I feel like the community is between the rock and the hard place. And I think that we need to honor their concerns, whether it's budget and, you know, just so many things that they're going to have tax time. I think we need to listen to them. Now, is probably more important than me to say, and then I think also by listening to them, I might get a better understanding of where they think our children should be. Does that make sense? I'm thinking.
Are you saying that you want the community to weigh in on if we're doing policy governance, or?
No, I'm not. I'm not asking the community to say, do you support policy governance? No, they don't have the knowledge. I don't. I'm saying for us to be able to have a supportive community, broad-based supportive community, that we need to be out there and talk to them in different ways, however ways we can kind of do that, because I think there's a variety of ways. We need to target that large audience and just find out what their thinking is, because we know that the budget season is going to be coming and it's going to be hard. And I think I heard Julie say that that's a concern, and it is. And I think then I would feel as though I would be better prepared if I felt like I knew what my community was asking from me as an elected person representing them.
So are you seeing that then as a goal, Diane, like for the first part of the year, that a
Yeah.
goal would be to engage in an intentional
Yes.
community engagement?
That's what I think the goal. Then I feel like I can stand there, or I can sit there, or I can meet somebody and say, well, we're really trying hard, and our next meeting is going to be here. And we're just kind of trying to figure out, what do you think about? And listen to what they have to say, and then take that information and we can compile it in different categories. Most of the people might talk money. Some might talk about, oh, I want my kid to be able to do this. But I have something I can then hold on to and say, well, we talked to 25, 40, 50, 60 people, whatever that is, and this is what they're thinking. And
So then
go
you're
ahead,
saying your
Carly.
goal is the same no matter what?
Yeah.
I find with COVID-19 that this is a wonderful desire, but I find that if we're going to talk to 45 or 50 or 60 different people, we may find that a very difficult goal in the next few months. Maybe not next year, but in the next few months, whether I'd be willing to go out and find 40 or 60 people.
Arlene, I want to clarify. I'm not saying that we absolutely have to go out and meet with people. I'm saying there are a variety of ways that we can get in touch with our constituents. Do we want to send out a mailing and saying, here's a survey, or, this is for that audience? I'm trying to figure out, who do we target, the community, not leaving anybody out. I think that, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a meeting at school if we all agreed and we could have people scheduled to come in. I don't know how it would necessarily work. I certainly wouldn't want to put myself at risk or anybody else, but I think there's a way we've got to be able to communicate to them, whether it's through newspaper and print or technology, that we can get some information back if we frame the questions.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
maybe it's not a good goal.
well, I think we're just talking through some things right now. So,
Yep.
so Corey, would a policy governance decision change what you would prioritize as a goal for the year?
No, it wouldn't.
Okay. Michael, Arlene, how about you guys?
Wouldn't change.
I don't think it would either. My only agitation, if you will, is just finding time to be as thorough as possible. But that's an ongoing issue.
Okay. So I'm hearing that people are busy, and I'll be honest, this is the busiest I've been in a really long time too. So my thoughts on policy governance, it seems like there's really three choices, 3 doors that we can walk through. And one is that we can have the idea of policy governance on the back burner, which we have been anyways, and continue to work with Val occasionally. We can just entirely put on hold the idea of policy governance and say, maybe we'll pick this back up in a year or in 6 months or whatever time frame we want. Or we can just say we're doing it right now.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should kind of a hybrid of a couple of things you're saying, Julie. I really like the framework of policy governance, and I think when we're making decisions that we kind of make sure we're kind of sticking to that framework, and I think we should continue to use it that way so that we don't get rusty. And it's also a really good check and balance, and I think it's a really good, as I say, great parameters. So I think we should continue to operate that way. It's just that the extra piece of, Val and the education piece, from my perspective, I'd really like to put that on hold, but let's still work within those parameters. I mean, I think we've done that really well, and we're getting better and better at it. So, let's continue to use it, but not, engage fully and try to learn it in the next year. That would be kind of the in-between stance, I think, or the hybrid of those. That would
My
be
concern is that there's never a good time to take it on, and there's a constant, every election we have new people coming in possibly. So then it seems like if the decision keeps getting delayed, it might not happen either. I mean, if that's like, do we take sort of a pledge to make that happen, you know, or does it just, is it going to fall off? And although the work will sort of, you know, it seems like we've done a lot of work so far working toward it. Does that make sense? Like, if it just,
You know, I think it makes sense. And as I say, I don't want to lose ground. I think we should continue to
Right.
work parameters, but I literally don't have, speaking for myself, I just don't, there's not enough hours in the day right now for me to be studying up on policy governance. I'm just being honest. So.
yeah, I mean, I do have, I don't have a lot of free time either, but I just
So
I'm nervous.
can I just, Scott, I think that, you know, we should continue, we have a, you know, policy governance framework that we're using. Isn't that that's true? And so I think that we should continue to look at whatever decisions we're making, referencing our policy governance. I think that that's to continue to do that, I think is a good thing. I may be, I don't know. I'm sitting on the fence almost saying, well, do I have the time or do I not? There's a lot going on in my personal life. There's, you know, I only have so much time to dedicate to, even though I'm retired. I'm still very busy, and I wouldn't necessarily mind looking at a specific policy and trying to read it during some of my free time before I go to bed, you know, whenever that might be, instead of, you know, I could say, okay, I'll look at this one and just kind of make notes so that in the future, when we do get together, I could at least say, I've looked at that. I'm not opposed to doing that. So that might be what Corey's thinking about. And I certainly think that we should try to decide if we're going to move forward with it, which is what I think getting more familiar with it will help us all be able to decide to do. But for me right now, I guess I lean towards more Scott using it as a framework. If I can make a commitment and, you know, Julie or Randy gave me guidance, well, I think this might be, you know, what we should look at as a board, or we all decided that, then I could spend a few minutes here and there. But to give me an absolute, I have to have it done at that time, probably would put a lot of extra pressure on me that I'm not willing to take on now either. So
I wonder if it makes sense to think, as I'm listening to you, I'm reflecting on the work that I've been peripheral to, the right, that I've been doing the last couple of years. And I wonder if it would make sense to consider, you know, asking one of the board members from Taconic and Green to come to a meeting and kind of make a report to you of kind of what the process was like, almost for them personally. How much time did it really take? Where were the most time-consuming parts? How does it actually kind of flow? It feels like a lot right now. You know, it gives you a chance to have, from a board member who's gone through it, a sense of what it is. I think, you know, my perception, which could be completely wrong, is that I think you're right. There is more learning up front, because, you know, the board read the book and engaged sort of in a book study, but it was almost like 2 sections, right? So that does take time. I don't know that they would say that once they kind of got over that big hurdle, that it took a lot of time outside of the typical board time. But it might be helpful. I guess that's just my point, is that it might be helpful if you're interested in having somebody come and talk through some of what your questions are, as somebody who's gone through it recently.
That's a great idea, because that sounds like the perspective would be very helpful. They're fresh for them.
Really good idea. And I also frankly think that if we could include moving the policy governance plan as a board forward by doing it within the framework of our all existing school board meetings, that would potentially help at least to not let that thing die without imposing on us excessive amounts of homework that I'm hearing several people really feel like they're not going to be able to accomplish. I think your suggestion, Randy, is a great one. And I do think finding some way to insert this, that policy governance agenda into our board meeting agendas really would be a good thing going forward, because I think ultimately as a board, we want to move to that. It's just a matter of bad timing at the moment. And Corey's point is well taken. It's always going to be bad time. There's always going to be, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
So if I may, sort of, I'm going to give you my synopsis of where we're all coming from, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm getting it. I'm hearing that we would like to maybe talk to a TNG member and see and get their input on what this would look like. We're not ready to pull the trigger today, but we would like to continue with our practice of policy governance, policy practice, which we had been doing with Jackie, where we would look at one policy and sort of practice through that at our regular board meetings, because we don't want to give up entirely on the work that we've put so much work into it so far, but we're just not ready to jump in without understanding what the time commitment is.
And
Yeah.
at this point, I guess it would be good to take sort of a vote to commit to it or not, I guess, if that makes, so that we know, so that like signing on, we know that's what we're working toward or not working, you know.
Well, do you want to, we're going to be working on our work plan, right, Randy? So do we want to put something in the work plan that we will do a check-in in like 3 months and see if we're ready to do a vote on adopting policy governance then? And that will give us time to have a TNG member talk to us and do a couple practice sessions.
Like a check-in, yeah.
Does that make sense to anyone?
Sounds good.
To me as well. I think that's a good idea, as long as we go from board meeting to board meeting, including at least a few minutes of discussion to touch upon the status of things. I think it's a good idea.
And so for me, I don't know where I got this idea from, but I thought I must have Jackie board meeting, but where I don't know if TNG took or somebody took a section, like there were, we decided as a board, this was the policy we were going to look at. And I took a section of that and Scott took a section of that. And then during a board meeting, we would come back and say, this is, you know, what I think it says, or I agree with this, or am I out there? Did anybody else hear any of that? I don't know if Corey was on the board then, but does anybody remember?
I wondered if that was, we did some practice sessions with Val where we looked at old, and we did at our retreat. We went through a lot of our last retreat. We looked at TNG's policy governance sections.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could put, that could be our practice, right? Where we take a TNG policy and just work through it in like 15 minutes at a board meeting. That's not an incredible amount of homework. I mean, Val sends so much stuff when she does a visit with us that it's like a 3-hour tour.
But I mean, if we just picked, you know, transportation and everybody had a little section of the kind of came, you know, and you've got a month to kind of know about that, then you can say, okay, well, next time we're going to talk about transportation policy and just give, you know, you do 1A through and you do, you know, I don't know.
So I don't know that you can approach it that way.
Okay.
So, but I am thinking that in the spirit of trying to help you reach the decision, really, is it, are we going to go forward or not? One of the things that might be worth doing is I keep looking at my folder over here, but Taconic and Green has the policies that they've adopted. They're working on their ends policy right now, and they're going through community engagement on that. But what they do is they've got the policy, and then the board says, okay, this year in our work plan, we want you to develop your interpretation and monitoring plan for a particular policy. So last year they only got through 2, okay, and they were both related to the budget, like fiscal management. So you had questions on the self-assessment you did about financials. What my thought is that it might be good for you to, at a meeting, for me to bring like policy 2.3 or 2.4 and bring the monitoring report, so that then we can unpack that and you can say, okay, so this is what the policy looks like, and then this is actually what happens with the superintendent, and what my responsibility is to report to the board. So what it will do is it'll give you an example of kind of how this works. And I think that would be useful, because it will, I think, illustrate the nature of the work.
And that would be like a 15-20 minute discussion during a
Yes,
regular
with
meeting.
nothing that requires any prep.
Okay, I think that sounds good.
Because what I'm hearing is you still want a little more information. Nobody has the capacity, or few people have the capacity outside of the meeting. So what can we accomplish that will help move you along? I think talking to a board member is a good thing to put on the work plan. Maybe that's the first thing that goes on there. And then the next meeting we look at, we look at the policy and the interpretation that was already done. I think that will give you more information to help you.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Randy, because I'm catching up very obviously what you people did last fall and early spring. But I understand there is a book about policy government. How can I get a hand on it? Because I'm a great reader. I'm very interested in education, and I would be glad to read through the whole book.
I'm going to get it sent to you. I'll make sure we get you a copy, Arlene, okay?
It is.
Who else needs it? Yep, there's one. Yes, so that's one. I've got another one too. Is that the one that Jackie gave you, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd
So
like the other one then, if we can.
these are the two that,
The other one will really help you fall asleep.
yes,
Yeah.
the other one is really boring.
All
This
right,
is the one that nobody has time to read.
the
Oh
board,
boy. Woo.
This is actually the Carver's book, and I will tell you, I struggled.
Oh, that's the one that this one. Yeah.
This one
Yeah.
is the one that I'll send you.
It's like the Poor Dummies version.
It's not, it's actually for very
Yeah.
smart people. It's just not for people who do nothing else except run this work.
I like, this is perfect though. You read like a chapter maybe and go to sleep every night.
Yeah.
Fresh
Well,
in
you read it, but then you're constantly feeling like, what did I just read? It's one of those books. I don't have any idea what I just read.
reading
Scott, does that sound like it wouldn't impede on your, like, because I think we're all like stretched to our limit. Well, a lot of us.
Yeah, no,
I have to, I'm not saying I have a lot of free time, honestly, or not making any judgments at all. I actually want to specifically say that I truly appreciate how thoughtful and considerate everybody is about not wanting to get into something that they just would give lip service to. I mean, I find that really impressive. So.
yeah, I mean, that's my point, is I can't honestly, do it with both feet in. I just don't, I'm kind of getting home usually at about 8 at night on a good night from showings, and I just, there's just not time. So I'll do the best I can.
Thank you. That's all we can ask.
Yeah.
and integrating, it seems like this plan is integrating our objectives into our already existing schedule as much as possible. So that seems like a really, to me, I would endorse that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that sounds like we've had our policy governance discussion. Right. So now, how do we want to do the goal discussion? Like, does everyone want to just put in a chat, like what your top 1 or 2 goals would be, and then we can just sort of see what everyone else said, or do we want to just go around the room?
So am I right? I'm going to type in here, your current goal is we will become one educational community, right?
Right.
I'm typing it in for you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question regarding that goal? Do people think we've achieved it?
You know what, Michael? I've thought really hard about this. I actually thought really, really hard about this because we kept the goal because we felt like we hadn't achieved it. And I'm going to say something that's not going to be, it's not going to be super like politically correct, but I think that this is a goal that is just sort of waiting for the old guard to die. And I don't mean that in any negative way. I think that there's just some real diehards that are not interested in ever getting over the past. There's a bitterness, and I understand that there's a bitterness, and I think that some people have come this way. You know, some people have come from here to here, and I think that some people are still over here and they ain't going anywhere.
Can I share with you as an outsider, right? I have this unique view of really not being involved in the merger process at all in any direct way, really not knowing any of the players involved in the discussions. And what I do know is that you had a gigantic struggle with getting to where you are. For me now, since the time that I've been working with you and started attending meetings like last winter, I am blown away. I have absolutely no idea who lives in Pollitt or who lives in Rupert on your board. I have never once heard a comment out of any of your mouths about your kids and looking at whatever community you live in and only considering your own. As an outsider who doesn't have any idea what's under the surface, you have achieved that goal to me. So I have no idea if that carries any value or weight in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's an interesting observation for you to hear.
Having been on the old board pre-merger, through the merger, and coming to these meetings before being on the board and now on the board, I feel that as well. It is a very different environment than it used to be in our meetings. So it does carry weight too, to hear that you can't pick up on anything, you know, of discord like that. And I do feel that it's all one community. In our discussions, it seems like there's no town, you know, mentioned when we're talking about how to educate the community. So I agree.
And I would also say for that goal, I've thought about it a lot too, Julie, and I think we probably all have really on some in different ways maybe, but I also feel as though I was in the merger talks at the very beginning on every committee, done, you know, every one of them, from the old ones to the new ones too. I read out the process. That's why I'm on the board. I wanted to, and I feel as though the board has come a long way. And I am proud of that fact, because I really think that we were reflectful throughout the courses of the years that I've been on it, trying to be really positive that it was the kids and the school, and it didn't matter where you came from or where I came from. I think that, you know, setting down and looking at those norms and being respectful and trying to listen and you know, smart enough and big enough to be able to move past our differences, I think has been demonstrated, at least from my perspective. And so I agree. I think that Randy's right. I don't think that she would notice it. I think Corey, you know, I think, I don't know, that's what I think. I think that we've really done well. And I hear, Julie, what you're saying is that there are some people, I'm sure, in my community who are going to be anti-budget because that's what they are. And I understand that, and I'm probably not going to move them. and they may say Paulette versus, and I just have to say, well, so anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, I think, you know, Diane, you and I were on the merger committee, and
Yeah.
I just think about how far it's come since
Exactly.
then. Those meetings they were just so
Hard.
many of them very tense and just
Yeah.
upsetting, and you know, and it's just, I really feel like that we've, you know, come a long way in bridging that divide. I just feel like I don't hear the negative. I mean, you're going to get it here and there, but I haven't really heard it in a long time. So I think I think we've come really a long way in that. And I think that as a board, I felt like we were achieving quite a bit too. I mean, the COVID thing has obviously taken a big impact, but we did have some, you know, some different events that we did that people from both communities were coming, and I don't know. I feel like I feel it was great having Jane as the head of the board for a while, and I think she brought a lot of. I think she really helped in bridging that divide too. So I don't know. I think we've come a long way in not that long a period of time. So.
I
What do
agree.
you think, Arlene?
What I'm seeing now that I'm coming to the board meeting is you're talking about education. You're talking about what are you going to do and how are you going to do it. I don't know whether I ever felt that when I was on the other board. It was all nitty gritty. You got through and you went home. You're having educational discussions, which is where I come from anyhow. And so I'm glad to be a part of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I don't think, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I don't think any one of us are thinking we would just drop that mantle. I think we chose that goal and we picked it up and we carried it, and I don't think we're setting it down. But are we at a point now where we can say we will continue on because it's like it's become the fiber of our board. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
This is who we are. We now are educating all of the kids in this community. And this community isn't a border of Pollitt or a border of Rupert. It's all the kids in our district. And it's become so much a part of how we approach what we're doing that we don't need to solely focus on that anymore.
I agree with you.
I do too.
And
Great.
the things that you just simply progress, you've grown. When you progress and you grow, then a school will progress and grow. And that's what you're looking to do.
And I think at last year's annual meeting, when Jane spoke on our collective behalf, she was very clear about the bridges that have been made. And I think that's happened in a sincere way with goodwill. And I agree with you, Julie. I feel like that goal is a valid goal that we can continue to extend into the future, but we want to get either more like dig down into that one in some greater specific way, or shift slightly to another perspective. I don't know off the top of my head what that might be, but I think we have established as a board and a community that is not border bound. And I think we have been effective to the extent we've had the exposure to communicate and make that clear to our constituents.
And maybe you can incorporate, I'm just thinking about this idea of educational community. Maybe you bridge that idea into your new goal. Like whatever your goal is as an educational community, or our educational community will. So essentially you take that concept that you've grown into and you maintain it as you progress, as Arlene said, into this next stage. So it sort of serves as that bridging phrase to be included in your next goal.
And build on it, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So after we say our educational community will, does anybody have the following sentence to put in there?
No.
Well, I have some ideas. Just, well, I have an idea that I think we'll all be able to work together to come up with something. But I heard a lot of people talking about how important community engagement is and has been for us. And I heard mention of a survey, and I heard, and we talked about stakeholders. And I think and I know that it's COVID and we can't all gather together, but I feel like I would like for us to work over the course of the year on, even if we don't do the actual like meeting with the community, but I think our work should be on a plan, on creating a survey, creating a list of stakeholders and people that we will commit to talking to, and getting an idea of what we want our new ends policies as the new educational community, what our priorities for our kids will be.
I agree.
And in some ways, what this COVID obstacle might present to us as an opportunity is, given that it's not really something where people can all gather in the same room, we have the advantage of using some of this communication media to put out, what do they call them here at my shop? Like MailChimp blasts. I'm not particularly educated with this stuff, but I know there are, vehicles for us to go, hey, community, look what's happening at the Mettawee school, or look at this, or look at whatever we tend to want to bring to their attention. And we might be able to play that. I see with other groups that I'm peripherally connected with, they're having sort of way more meetings because everybody can do it from their own living room. So we do have in that way something going in our favor, I think, in terms of the communication possibility. We don't all have to go and meet at the school. We can actually put together as a board some sort of an information blast that we want to put out to our friends and neighbors, with the possibility for their feedback built into it. Just a thought, but I do think in that way we're not all quite as necessarily trapped or isolated from each other as it had been feeling in the earlier part of this pandemic event.
Right. What do you think about that, Corey?
I do. I think that I definitely feel like it's sort of expanded the way we reach out to people. A lot of times, definitely doing it in one fashion, like a mailing, doesn't always reach everybody. So I think it's a little bit great, or we're able to be more dynamic even virtually. And I feel it feels positive.
Meanwhile, I should tell everybody that there is hope. I am working on CUD. I think some of you have heard about it, Communications Union Districts.
Yeah.
And also, very unexpectedly, a fiber optic line was run up into the hollow, and we are in the process of attached to it.
Wow.
Maybe by the end of next month.
Wow.
That's
And
awesome.
that's just us, but there are a number of other people in the hollow with children and with interest also in education. So there are other places in town that we should become aware of that need this kind of help, fiber optic lines. And that, when I say this town, I'm talking about the community of Mettawee.
Right.
Yes, that's great.
What do you think, Scott? What are your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it is tricky during COVID times, but to reach out however we can and continue the community engagement. And I was aware of what Arlene was talking about with that fiber optics line. It goes all the way up to Dole Road. That's huge. I mean, because I mean, there were a number of kids up there that couldn't connect last year. So that's I mean, that's another thing as a board during COVID times that to me is a real concern, you know, of inequity where some kids don't have access to remote learning. So I wonder if we did some kind of community outreach, you know, to even talk about that and that progress is being made. You know, that could be something that it's nice that we're aware of, and to make the Rupert community, of course, which is our community, aware of that, you know, that strides are being made for that. But, you know, communication's the key, so.
Right. I'm writing down a goal based on what we've talked about, but I'm gonna need help on the end. But just one of the things, so at the VSBA retreat last year, there was a lot of talk about community engagement and a lot, and it was really interesting. I think we have opportunity to reach out in a lot of different ways to different groups of people. Like one of the things that, you know, when we talk about stakeholders, we're really talking about what we want people leaving our system to be capable of doing, you know, is to reach out to people within our community that own and operate businesses, and asking them what their ideal candidates for their positions look like, what talents they need, what you know, and that sort of gets that angle. And then you look at other things in the communities, you know, churches and things like that, where you're really asking people, well, what do you see as being important for kids graduating from our system to look like? And then another really, really, really important thing is to talk to kids about what they think that their future is going to look like.
Yes.
So I think if we take the time over the year to look at to come up with a plan, to come up with a list of people we want to talk to come up with a list of questions that we want to ask, and we just sort of start doing the work of the work, that might be a good place for us to come into this year. So, and I will read to you what I wrote, but like I said, the last few words, I'm going to need wordsmithing, but I had new goal. We will work as one educational community to engage with stakeholders in our community to create a vision of what an ideal graduate from our system looks like. So I lost myself at ideal graduate from our system looks like, but I like the first part.
Like the qualities of an ideal graduate, or?
Do you want me to type out what I wrote and then we can wordsmith it from there?
Yeah, that would help.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Good. For a while. Oops. Oopsie. Thank you, Kyle. Okay. So we're wordsmithing what I just typed in, Randy.
Where do I get it?
So
In
if
the
you go
chat.
down to the bottom, there's a chat button? The
No, 'cause
bottom
on
of
my
Zoom
phone it needs to
screen?
be at the top.
Yeah,
I don't-
sometimes on iPads it's at the top.
Oh, okay.
So there's a chat button?
Yep. If you
There's
find,
Why?
iPad, where would the chat button be?
I haven't used my iPad for this.
So if you tap your screen, there should be a bar that kind of appears, and it's got your mute button and your stop video. Do you see
Yep.
that bar?
Yep,
So
and I
there
have
is-
more over at the end, so.
So you might need
chat.
to open the window if it's not open all the way, so that
I got it,
one that says chat.
I got it.
Michael, are you seeing it? It's like right in the middle.
I see it, I hit it, but I don't
And
know
then
what it did.
Usually a window opens up on the side.
On this,
Okay.
Yeah. When I use my iPad, which I use much more than this,
This size, yeah.
it's much more user friendly.
So maybe we'll, are everybody hearing everybody?
Yep, I can hear you.
Looks like people are frozen.
Yeah. it does.
No, you're good.
We hear
We can
you.
hear you.
Okay, now I think he might really be frozen.
Nope, we just lost him.
Oh.
Oh no, there's lights.
Did you guys
Hi,
lose
Michael.
power?
Yeah.
I wonder if they lost power. That's so weird.
Well,
Does anyone else have some words?
I can see and hear, and I've got the chat open in front of me, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops.
They're sharing the screen, I think.
Okay.
It's
I hit share screen instead of chat.
like my screen. But
Hmm.
No, it's theirs.
oh right.
On the
Right.
top it says.
We make him stop.
So there should be a blue bar, and there's like a red button that says stop share. If you touch your screen, you're going to click on that stop shares.
Can they even hear us though?
There we go. They did it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well done.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the one word that we may want to shift a little bit would be the quality to perhaps skill sets.
Yeah.
Something a little less
I like that.
esoteric, or maybe that would help to clarify.
In this sentence or in our thought process?
No, in the sentence where the sentence gets to the quality of our student, it might read, I don't have it in front of me at the
I
moment.
don't have quality, I have ideal.
Would be skill sets, not necessarily something as abstract as quality. I don't know where it went.
No.
Oh, what my sentence ended with was
Yeah.
to create a vision of what an ideal graduate leaving our system looks like.
So
Yeah,
maybe
Mm-hmm.
you'd say what skills and qualities an ideal graduate leaving our system looks like, to be specific, or something like that. Because
Sorry.
I kind of think about, the skill set, but also, their qualities, their ability to communicate, their respect for community, all those kind of really important things. So qualities and ideals are qualities and skill sets are the two things that come to my mind. I don't know what other.
Oh, Michael.
Creative.
Help me, Rhonda.
Any other ideas?
So I think a graduate of our system, I mean,
Okay.
rather than leaving.
Okay.
Or,
So do you like the,
creative
to
community.
create a list of skill sets and qualities?
I'm not, yeah, I'm trying
What
to,
about create a vision of our ideal graduate?
that's,
Yeah.
I thought so too. Like the simple.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we,
But then because that would seem that the ideal graduate would have certain skill sets and qualities.
okay.
Create a vision of our ideal graduate.
Say that again, Randy.
I was just ending the sentence with, we will work as one educational community to engage with our stakeholders to create a vision of our ideal graduate. Although you might it's really not one thing, right? Like, you don't want the variability and the diversity of your community, probably, that you want to capture.
Of like, there's not just one ideal graduate. They would
Yeah.
have many different qualities. I mean, and
Right.
abilities to, yeah.
Oh, can you say that one more time, Randy?
Well, so I said, we will work as one educational community to engage with stakeholders to create a vision of our ideal graduate. But then I was commenting about your ideal graduate is going to look.
Can we say ideal graduates, and every graduate is different, so that in itself would imply diversity? Does that, or how do we get that? And then while I'm talking, all stakeholders, should we insert the word all stakeholders? We will work as an educational community to engage with all stakeholders. So that,
seems fine.
You're probably not going to get every stakeholder, so.
oh, I know
The
that,
different
but I
types.
imply that I'm trying. I want
means-
it to be.
And,
Yeah.
and the different types of
A
stakeholders.
variety of stakeholders.
Variety
Yeah.
of stakeholders.
And Arlene brought up, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Arlene brought up about that word ideal again. It's
Many ideas.
there's more concrete, to create a vision of what a prepared graduate would look like, what a, something to that effect. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of don't like the idea of putting a box around it and saying this is, like, here we are at a beauty contest, and if you don't fit this perfect box, then we don't, like, we want people to be able to leave our system and go, like, pump septic tanks well and live a good life, and we want to leave people to be able to leave our systems and be heart surgeons and do it well and live a good life.
That's exactly it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe the idea of creating a vision of our ideal graduate, we may want to hone in
Maybe
more
we could leave that there, but then put a qualifier, like.
Do we want to include the word diversity in some?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Scott.
Yeah, somehow you incorporate that word, so that it captures that idea that there's a diversity of students, and we want to be able to teach them a diversity of skills and, skill sets, where their strengths are.
I wonder if you embrace the diversity of, we will work as one educational community to embrace the diversity of our students and support them in
Ensuring them a successful future.
Mhm.
Okay. To
Teach them the skill sets and qualities needed for a successful and fulfilling future.
I feel like we're now starting to make an ends policy, and we want to make a goal about what we're looking to do in a year. So I think we want to. I
Okay.
think it's weird.
Okay. Yeah.
I to engage with a variety of stakeholders in our community to,
I just quickly jotted down here, to ensure that they leave with a rich vocabulary of skill sets and ...
I still feel like that sort of ends policy-ish.
I do think we don't need to have that second in our community, the stakeholders, because they would be in our community if we
Yeah.
were in community.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do want to do when you meet with your stakeholders?
I want to get an idea of what their idea of someone graduate, like the set of skills and
Abilities.
and like tools that these kids would have if they could just design, like, I just want to know what they want what they want to come out of the assembly line. You know what I mean?
Want our students to be able to know and be able to do.
Right. And like the emotional maturity and like the mental
skills.
I want to know what these people are looking to get, like, because at the end of the day, it's their dollar, and I want them to have a feel that they are getting what they want for their money.
Randy, can you repeat what you just said? Because I think that was really clear and concise. I mean, it was, I don't know exactly, but I liked it. So what did you just say?
I tend to be a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
I often say that I can't usually repeat what I said.
Can't rewind.
We got to write it down the first time because I'm like,
to
I have
write
no
it
idea what I just said.
You said to be able to know and do, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Work is one educational community to engage with stakeholders to, identify what we want our students to be able to know and be able to do when they graduate. I'm not sure that's exactly
And do it wasn't.
It was fair.
I like
what
you said.
Yeah.
Oh, we recorded it, right? Can't
we did. Yeah.
What'd you just say?
Oh, I was like, did I forget to come back and record? We never left.
Recording.
Do we want to keep it not too long and wordy?
And
A graduate of our system.
We will work as one educational community to either engage or ensure that our students, I don't know, are capable of being successful.
can take the next step.
But the question that you're looking at is, what is it that your community identifies as the outcomes that lead to that?
Right.
Do they value, whatever it is you want to find out? You will likely find a very diverse group of responses from your community members. And that's important for you. That's important for you as a board to really have a sense of, as you look at what is it that we want happening at the Mettawee School and for your high school and middle school students.
So are we leaving stakeholders in there? Because I thought that Corey was thinking maybe we needed to take it out. I think I need to know.
No, I said take out the second reference to community.
Okay.
Yeah, stakeholders, just stakeholders, not in our community.
Okay.
Yeah.
To engage with stakeholders, all stakeholders, to create. So we're taking out that. Okay. Or to something.
How about to engage with a variety of stakeholders to create a vision of diverse and successful graduates, leaving our system would look like? Of what diverse and
Graduates of our system. Okay.
Do you want me to say that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. We will work as one educational community to engage with a variety of stakeholders to create a vision of what diverse and successful graduates leaving our system would look like.
One phrase I stuck down here was allow, blah, 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 that our students have acquired skill sets that will allow them to be independent learners and problem solvers. It's something that indicates that, because part of my objective personally in an education for someone is, gee, we've taught you how to teach yourself. We've taught you how to acquire the information you might need because you want to open a restaurant or build a bridge or whatever it is. You have now the skill sets that you've acquired from your education to put those pieces together.
These kids are coming out of sixth grade.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm still going back to the same thing. Well, I feel like you're coming up with an ends policy. And what we're trying to do is say what we want to engage with stakeholders about. So my vision of this goal is that we are working on a plan to, we're working on a commitment to community engagement and a plan of what that would look like. And so our commitment and goal this year is to come up with a way to engage the stakeholders of our community and find out what their vision of kids leaving our system looks like.
Or need to take the next step.
So do you really want to identify the action that we want to take over the next year and what we want to accomplish? So that would be that we want to interview the business owners and stakeholders in our community to find out what skills and qualities we need to teach our students. Isn't that kind of more simply what we want to try to, that's the action we want to try to do?
One more time, Scott.
Well, just
Last
that
part.
over the next year, we want to interview and learn from our business owners and stakeholders of our community what skills and qualities our students need to be taught or need to, exit our school with. But it's kind of that identifying, in our statement, like that, the action that we want to do, which is to interview and learn from our business owners and stakeholders. What are those qualities and what are those skills?
So to create a vision of what skills and tools a graduate leaving our system would need,
should have, yeah. I mean, as you said, Julie, it seems like we're all trying to do this all-encompassing thing, diversity and skill sets, and it seems like what we're trying to do is identify, what's the action, what do we want to achieve this year, and that's to interview and ask these questions of stakeholders and business owners, like, hey, what should we be teaching our kids? What are the skills that are needed out there? So let's just identify the action. Is that kind of more, so it's not so, like you say, ends driven and comprehensive?
I just don't want us to, like, I don't want us to say what we think our kids should have when they leave our system, because we all have ideas. But I think that what we're talking about literally right this second is what our goal for the year is. And we identified how we find it important to commit to community engagement. And what we want out of that community engagement is basically what you said, like a list of skills and tools that people in our community think it is important for the kids leaving our system to have.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little hair splitty, but I think we should leave it as a stakeholder. If you're going to identify business owners, then you should also identify artists, musicians, and etc. So
they are stakeholders.
Stakeholders.
They're included in it.
Everybody is a stakeholder.
That's where I think listing a specific type of stakeholder we should just leave out of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how about we will work as one educational community to engage with a variety of stakeholders to create a vision of what skills and tools a graduate of our system should have.
maybe we should just say not a graduate, but the graduate,
All
make it
graduates.
all inclusive. They're very diverse, is what I'm saying.
I like that, Julie. I would just say skills
have.
and qualities. I think skills and tools are,
Yeah.
I think
agree.
quality is important to have in there,
So do we don't want to use the word graduate? Do we want to use, I hate to use the word child because our district educates all the way to 12th grade, and I can't imagine any 18-year-old wants to be called a child.
How
It's
about
it's a graduate, right? No?
or students? Because
I mean,
they're
somebody who goes through the system wouldn't that be?
Yes.
But a graduate is an end goal just to be a pain in the ass. And the student is somebody who's going through the process.
Michael.
I think graduate
And that, but
includes
But then
a graduate of Mettawee, and it also includes a graduate as their senior year of high school.
the whole
So
system.
just use the word graduate kind of captures all.
Which we do not have.
Yeah, the goal, embedded goal is that people graduate from our system, I guess.
And our system
Or
would be the
that are gonna try.
Oh, great. Yeah, right. That they
I think
graduate.
that's great, Julie, that last one that you had. That's
Okay, I'm gonna just hit enter and we'll look at it.
Great.
Arlene brought up to me just now a valid point, which is that once our students leave 6th grade, they go to a diverse range of other schools, which, as far as this board is concerned, we have no control over.
Right.
But your values still as a board,
Is-
your values and what matters to you should still be communicated. And you are still responsible for the outcomes of all of your high school students because they are still your students.
Our students.
So it shouldn't matter where they go to
Yeah.
school because that's our goal is that they should have these certain skills and
No
qualities.
matter where they go.
And
Yeah.
instead of qualities, you can use the word values. Thank you, Randy.
Ah, values.
Values, so skills and values?
Values is a little,
Quality to me seems like something innate, and a value is something that you can actually get educated about and choose to take on.
but it feels almost imposed upon. Like
I
don't
know. I have a
sounds
hard
little-
time with values.
Well, you want to find out from your stakeholders what they value.
Value.
Right.
Sure.
I
Right.
think a variety of stakeholders, a variety of our stakeholders, I guess it, I like that though. I think this is good. It's perfect. It's very clear. It's a clear action and goal.
Could you read it out loud again for us here?
We will work as one educational community to engage with a variety of stakeholders to create a vision of what skills and qualities a graduate of our system should have.
That also obligates us to create that vision in a more specific.
No, it doesn't. It obligates us to ask stakeholders
Oh,
to tell us what they want their vision to be.
fair enough. True enough.
Right.
So that obligates us to ask some good questions.
Yes, it does.
I like that.
Okay.
that. That's good. I make a motion to accept that.
I second it.
Excellent. I don't think we need to vote
I
on it.
know.
But is
More
everyone okay with
discussion?
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. I like it.
I do
think
too.
y'all worked really hard on it, and it's
And then I think the interesting thing for us as a board, and maybe we need to schedule this in, will be what are our questions?
Oh, I think it has
how
to
will we get to
as a
that?
board.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think we have to develop those questions as a group.
yep. And I think that's what this gives us a framework of what our work plan is going to look like this year.
Right.
Yes.
I just stuck it on the work plan as a placeholder.
Yeah, I look forward to that. That'll be kind of fun, actually. I think that'll be
I
good
agree.
work.
You'll have to split it because there's only one.
I agree.
Okay. So should we move on to the next item?
Madam Chairperson, can we
Yeah.
get a 7th inning stretch for just a moment?
Go for it, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think you should always address me as Madam Chairperson.
Got it. It sounds a little, it's got, it smacks of Chinese communism, but we'll go with it.
I always wanted to be a dictator,
Thank you,
Michael.
Madam Chairwoman. I'm taking my stretch.
Okay. And Michael is wandering around. While Michael is getting his yoga in,
Are we looking to
Randy, do
end
you
it
have
4, right?
yeah, what's the we had the equity thing. Did you have a statement from TNG?
I
don't
did.
remember
It's
seeing
in the
it.
board packet. I included the one that they adopted just so you could see it.
Okay.
So it's up to you. But yes, you do have.
We're getting towards the end. I mean, I really don't want to go past 4.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's packet page 61, right?
Probably. Yes. Yep. You wanna? I don't have the packet open on my desktop, but
Do you want me to read it?
I've got it. I've got a hard copy here too. I was just gonna see whether.
What are we discussing? I got up and moved around.
The next thing on the agenda is the equity, which is packet page 61, but I don't know. Did you get your packet?
No, I didn't get, no. So packet page 61.
Yeah, so this is the Taconic and Green equity statement. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Okay. Board operational definition of equity.
Is Corey back yet?
Oh, do you want me to wait? I can't read and look at this. But I think Corey has her packet and Diane wasn't able to get hers, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read it.
Good. Go ahead.
Education equity means that each child receives what he or she needs to develop to his or her full academic and social potential. Working towards equity involves commitment to access, process, and outcomes, including by 1, removing the predictability for success or failure that currently correlates with any social or cultural factor. 2, interrupting inequitable practices, examining biases, and creating inclusive multicultural school environments for adults and children. 3, discovering and cultivating the unique gifts, talents, and interests that every human possesses. Equity goes beyond the formal equality where all students are treated the same. Achieving equity may require an unequal distribution of resources and services.
Okay.
And that was adapted from the National Equity Project, and they did it last year at their retreat is when they approved.
And who was it adopted from? I heard all of it. National
Equity Project.
Okay.
Whew. Yeah. Boy, that last line was great. Gave me goosebumps. I think it's important for us to put, I don't know if we need to like decide to adopt this today or if we want to think about it and come up with our own or tweak this or whatever, but I think we've all made it really clear how important equity is to us. So it may be that we just put something like this on the work plan.
And it's interesting because it is their operational definition, right? So what it does is it, for me, makes it really clear about how they want me to operate. And I'll tell you, just as an aside, and I told them this came up at our retreat with them yesterday, but the question is, what am I doing or what are we doing? And today I had a warrant for Taconic and Green that I had to go through and sign. And I am going through literally every single line item. And And it was very cool for me to be looking at the books and the posters and the stamps that are, the things that are coming through with a strong focus on equity. And I had, made a clear statement, I think I shared this last meeting, that I want at least half of our print materials to be representing historically marginalized individuals or authors or representations. And I'm seeing it. And it's a pretty great feeling for me to see the action coming, and for me to be able to say, I held something up from your board. I was going through your warrant, and there was a really, really big purchase that they were waiting on payment. And I said, I want to know what's in this box, because if it's not representative in a really diverse way, then I don't really want to invest this amount of money. I'd rather us send this back. And this was at the very beginning of the summer. And I held on to that payment until the box had been opened and gone through and we could confirm what was in it before we paid. Those are things we've never done before in our system. But this really kind of helps me to say, this is a priority, and what are my actions? This is some of what we're doing to make sure that's happening in our schools.
Great. What do you guys think? Do you want to go ahead, Diane?
Well, I think that for me, I appreciate you reading it. I'm so visual. I'm going to want to look at it again, and I would like it to be maybe on our next meeting, or just so I have some time to read it and really think about my interpretation of it, and do I fully understand what it is to the best of my ability.
Okay.
That would be my thought. I would like to not adopt it now and to make sure I understand a little bit more.
I can understand that. Would everyone be okay with putting this in our work plan for the next meeting to either edit this policy, to review this policy for the potential of adopting it or editing it, and then it would be adopted at the following meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is not a policy, it's a definition that they approved.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
so we could just put it on our next meeting to go through this definition and tweak it if we will, or just approve it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a policy, it's essentially their equity statement, because they
Okay.
wanted to have something that they were clearly putting out there publicly as how they're operating and what they define equity as.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to have one.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with us having one? And then
I agree. I think it's important that this is how we see it. This is what we state, and then we can move forward from that. So here it is. I think that that's a good idea.
Okay. Is everyone else okay with kicking that to the next meeting? Okay. So we blistered right through that, Randy.
Look at you go.
Work plan. We have 13 minutes to knock it out of the park.
But Randy's been working on it for us, right? Haven't you been throwing things in?
I wouldn't say throwing. I've written a few
I
things.
right, but I didn't mean that. It's a bad one. Typing, making notes.
I am a little bit old. As much as I'm on technology a lot, I'm kind of old school when it comes to like writing things out like this. So in the work plan is literally just there are just a few things that I put in here looking at previous work plans. And I want to make sure that we're including the things that matter to you right now, and we'll keep revising this as we go. But you see what's included in here. What I've added just through a conversation under the column of work sessions is in September to have to have somebody come from TNG to talk about their policy governance experience, maybe for just like 15 or 20 minutes. And then I put community engagement planning so that you could begin to frame out what you want that to look like. I think you're all frozen. Am I here? Okay, did I freeze?
Something
She's
about,
back.
oh, there she is.
Oh, good.
I think we just had a glitch with our internet in the whole building. I could just hear people kind of moaning out there. And then I thought, oh, no, everybody dropped because I was the host and y'all have to call back in. Okay, are we ready to try again?
Yes.
Okay, so I had put in September, having somebody come from Taconic and Green for a discussion of policy governance, like 15 or 20 minutes. And then to map out that community engagement planning that you were talking about. I think it might be good to kind of build on the momentum you've got right now with it.
Yep.
And then in October, that I can bring one of the Taconic and Green policies for, again, like a 15 to 20 minute review of, this is the policy, this is the interpretation, let's talk about this and how it kind of matches to what you currently do and doesn't, as an example for you. And then I was going to put on there also just sort of, again, because I don't know how long it'll take, if you come up with the community engagement plan you want to do as far as format in that first meeting, my thought was that the second meeting in October, you could say, okay, now that we know what we want to do, let's talk about when, who, how, kind of some of the logistics around the actual execution of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in November, we start getting into budget work. I don't know that there'll be anything at the beginning of November, although what I would say to you as far as budget prep is, I'm kind of anticipating that I anticipate we may have to make some decisions. And so I would like to be as transparent and as informative as I can be with you about what we find out over the next few months, the guidance and direction we're being given, and to get ahead of it with you earlier rather than later. Okay, so I'm anticipating some level in November of conceptual financial information for you, and then probably I would say this is the last time, or we might not even need it, that community engagement. I just put a placeholder in case we needed to continue to talk about it, but you might be done in 2 meetings. And then you're looking December, January, those meetings being budget meetings, and I expect them to take a significant amount of time. I could be pleasantly surprised, which would be awesome. But you will find I'm a little bit conservative. So that's sort of the work sessions. And then I know that you've appreciated, enjoyed having some teacher or student presentations. So I had put in here in October an equity, because I wanted you to have a sense of the work that's happening at Mettawee related to equity. So I thought we should do that in October so you kind of can see their planning for the year. And then right now I only have December and March being a teacher-student presentation. One of the thoughts I had that you might want to consider would be having some sort of a presentation by 1 or 2 high school kids, maybe seniors who are doing something, who can talk to you about what they're doing and how, because it's important to me that you remember that all your students are all your students. So
Right, I know that.
so if we I might think about doing something in January, February, where we have some students from, maybe invite kids from both Granville and Salem, and maybe 1 or 2 Vermont schools, and they could do a quick 5-minute about, hey, I'm a senior and this is what's going on for me.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Can we just the equity definition, can we put that on September?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
And when is that meeting? Just refresh me right now, because it's on my calendar.
Well,
September 14th at 6:30.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what was holding.
and I wasn't sure, I have to be honest, I didn't connect with Celeste about this. Has your typical meeting rotation, if we were live in person, been Mettawee, Rupert, Mettawee, Rupert?
No, it's been Mettawee, Rupert, Mettawee, Rupert.
Okay.
Unless we need technology, and then we just have that at Mettawee.
Okay, so I'm gonna let me re-look at this then. I was trying to make sense of the last one, but I have a feeling meetings got moved, which then meant that
Yeah,
I lost the rhythm.
They did.
So what are your thoughts about continuing to meet remotely versus going in person?
I think it leaves cupcakes completely out of the picture, and I'm very unhappy about that.
Say that one more time.
He said it leaves
Cupcakes out of
cupcakes.
picture.
Yeah, well, so in light of that, when I saw Scott's email, I thought to myself, wow, I have to have a reckoning with you as a board, because you have to understand very clearly for me, I can't cook or bake or do any food preparation that this might take all the respect out of the meeting, because after the second time you'd probably be like, no, really, Randy, really, we're good.
Randy, I'm good that you can't cook. I wasn't trying to put any heat on you. I
Yes.
just know there have been some awesome cupcakes that have wandered through this board now and then, and I feel sad that I'm probably not to get to see one for a while. That's all.
My metabolism thinks that the remote learning is better. No, but I definitely prefer the online. It's a lot easier. It takes away like the stress of winter, too. But
So why don't we plan on, what I will do is we will plan on next month being virtual. And then I will go out from there, Mettawee Rupert, and we will kind of take it meeting by meeting about whether we go to that location or we stay remote. Does that sound
Okay.
fine?
Yep.
Yeah. What are T&G doing in person?
Not yet. They're probably going to talk about it because it's the argument that everyone is hearing and feeling, I think, all the time, which is we're opening our schools, but our boards are still meeting remotely. But what I will say to them, it just kind of came up the end of our meeting, and I will say to you, is that I've spent time talking to superintendents who are holding in-person meetings. And it's really challenging. It's challenging because you're outside, you're socially distancing, you're trying to video the meeting from outside. It starts to get dark. People can't hear the technology, the microphone from the audience or even from board members. So you're constantly, somebody is repeating everything that's said. It starts to get dark. The bugs come out. It is, after hearing about it, I thought to myself, I understand on principle, and I'm at my office. I work here just about 100% of the time right now. I'm very comfortable being in person. I'd be very comfortable meeting in person, but the reality is trying to do a board meeting in person, following the guidelines, is logistically very, very challenging.
Right.
and then the cleanup afterwards, it's a little bit of a strain on resources.
Yeah.
It is. And if it rains or snows or.
Guys, I have to go. I have to get to an appointment.
Okay,
So-
I think we're winding down anyways, but thank you very much,
I
Scott.
will update this, and we'll keep updating it as we work through.
That's good.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. So I agree with that. We'll just play it by ear as far as in person. I mean, I don't see a need to change things right now. So, are we all set with the work plan? Is everyone comfortable with that?
I think it's a good start. And like she said, we can add to it or take off whatever we need to. It's a outline.
Okay.
Could I ask that we somehow? So I just would love to have a copy of it.
Yep. I took a pic. I screenshot.
Oh, okay.
Screenshot. I'll type it up.
I can do it right
Oh, okay.
now, I think.
Convenience.
The board goal,
Yes.
Mhm.
I wrote it down also, so it'll be in the minutes as soon as those come out, but you won't see the minutes probably for another week or so, I would think.
Okay.
Okay. Woo-hoo. All right.
Okay. So then the next meeting is September 14th.
At 6:30.
And it's virtual.
Yep. And then if that's all we have to do, that's it, right?
Yes.
So,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Is that
sure.
allowed?
That sounds great.
I will second.
All right.
Thank you all.
Yep. We're
Thank
adjourned
you.
exactly 4, Randy.
Wow.
Perfect.